again, because they are so scared of being vulnerable, and you really do bring out their vulnerable side. You bring out their emotions, okay, and they feel like they cannot control that.
Early
But
doors
that's why the
today.
person stepped away. Now, this is somebody that I do want to say that the way they act, like they've been hurt in the past, okay?
Me too.
They've had their heart shattered before they close up to emotion. If they have to live in a child, right? But this person feels like they're
Love you there.
Now, I am thinking that you try to speak to this person and they ignored you. That's what I'm thinking, like they ignored you or they didn't respond. There's something that you said to this person and they didn't respond to it or they ignored you, and that is really weighing heavy on this person right now. Like they really wish they didn't. They wish they said something. Okay, they have something to say to you. There's something that they said, but they did not say because they didn't want to come off as vulnerable or like emotional. Okay, and now it's like a big regret because they feel like they cannot say it. They feel like there's missing opportunity. And this is something that's done a lot here. Okay, it's definitely like some type of betrayal. Oh, you know what this is? This is self-sabotage. That's what's going on here. This person constantly sabotages themselves as Shane 1444 because they will not say what's on their mind. They will not say what's on their heart. They will not share their emotions. They have left a lot of things unsaid in their lives and missed a lot of opportunity, right? Yeah, this person, they're going to come at you in a very emotional state, okay? This person may be crying. It's honestly an energy that you don't expect, especially from them, right? But this person, they're going to come to you in a very emotional state. They're going to say everything that they've left unsaid. And they're going to want a new beginning with you, or a beginning with you, right? It's like all of these emotions that they have been hiding from have hit them at once. But especially missing out on this opportunity with you, right? This person, they are actually, now they're feeling their emotions, now they have no choice, right? In the past, I just think 16, in the past, they decided that they were going to run from their emotions and protect themselves with their ego. That's not working anymore because they had the ego death. Now they realize what's important, and now you're going to see this person in a way that you've never seen them before. And as I mentioned, like I feel like you've labeled this person as a narcissist, or it's just because of the way that they've been acting, okay? Like showing no emotion, acting like they don't care, right? Yeah, this is going to be a total shock, like an absolute surprise. Also, things that you thought they felt for you, or things that you thought, because you are very intuitive and you've been having dreams about this person, right? They're about to say things that you already knew on an intuitive level, but you didn't actually think that it's like their emotion, okay? Now, on an intuitive level, you know their emotions, okay? But they've never said it to you. they're about to literally confess. They're about to say everything that you have been wanting to hear from this person. Also, they know they're in the wrong, they know they've treated you bad, they know that they have put all the wrong things above you, and they really regret it, right? This is something that's going to come at you, again, very emotional and very apologetic, but they are wanting your forgiveness, right? There was an energy over this person's life, I will say that. There definitely was an energy over their life, okay? This could have been like a spiritual attack, curse, something like that. But there definitely was a dark energy trying to destroy things for this person. This could have even been a test, and this person kind of fell into their ego through that. But this person, again, it's like they forgot what was important to them when they fell into their ego. Okay? Now we've had this ego death, and they are recognizing and realizing exactly what's important again. They're freaking out. Okay? They're freaking out. This is why you may feel like this person is very overwhelming right now, but they will not leave you alone. Okay? Because this person is about to really come at you in every way possible. Like not just one. You may even have this person showing up at your doorstep. Right? Because again, they haven't felt their emotions in a long time. So their emotions are now coming in full blown waves of emotion coming in. And because they haven't felt their emotions for a long time, and they haven't allowed themselves to be vulnerable, this energy is intense and they don't know how to handle it. So it's like they're very full, right? So in this case, it's really up to you if you forgive this person or not. If you want to give this person a time to say, like, it's completely up to you. Okay. So I do see that there is an unconditional love between you two. Right? And I do see that this is an opportunity for them to come together or come back together. And this person is different because they've had this ego. They were acting in all different shades of crazy because of their ego.
Well, hello there.
Their ego really took over.
How are you?
And
I'm
while they're in
Phil.
that state of mind,
I'm doing some art. This is what I've done started years ago. I decided to mess about a little bit. Very basic. I'm going to try and make it a little bit more detailed, maybe.
So that's all I have to
I use
use.
positive paint pens. I'm also trying to write a poem for my friend's funeral, which I'm going to read out. It's one for my dad's and my brother's, and I just read one to her, and she said, because she knew she was going to die, because she's got cancer. She said, "Oh, Phil, will you write a poem for me for my funeral?" And I was like, "Yeah." I think I've got a real good one.
Awaken a deep inner knowing and trust that the magic of the cosmos is woven into the fabric of your being.
Hello again. Who are we?
That is working to
Do we talk? Do we chat?
in your life.
I am Philip.
My name is Jason Stevenson, and thank you for joining me here tonight. By the end of this
You're not going to listen to this, don't worry. We'll
you
all
will be
sleep.
invited to drift off to sleep.
85 Andre. Where's you
So
gone,
go
Andre?
ahead and make yourself comfortable for that.
Andre Hodge.
Support yourself.
One of the
with
most-
cushions.
One of the best. This is heavy, deep, totally different to what I've put on the thing, but
stuff, right?
you need to hear this. This is important stuff.
Definitely behind the scenes that are, you know, if you watch the video that I got off of the first one,
If you're hurt, I'm hurting too.
what
What
you
you
start
thinking about my now?
these definitely behind the scenes that are,
Tonight's today.
if you watch the video that I got off of the first one,
Hey, do you like my?
Yeah.
So I went and got some of my art from
next
my old
level
place.
sort of stuff. So
Game
game on. sort of
Here's one I made.
So what I'm saying
Film
is
words.
that
Hand of
it
God
felt
less
like
rather than
Earth
God like
was under
Maradona.
massive
That's
threat,
Maradona
and
himself. Like,
I
wow.
did this kind of killing midweek, and it
It's
really
not very
felt a
nice
lot
picture to be fair.
because it was like the day after.
So it's divine
The
feminine.
first day I felt
The
really
runes,
clear in my head,
Banana,
right?
Queen of Heaven,
Like really good.
Aphrodite, Hathor, Venus. I'm
And
sure to add more. And it
I can
says
operate in all those states and
love,
I can separate
respect,
what's me and what's
honor,
not me.
nobility,
Ideally,
dignity with
sometimes when people are
influence.
being possessed and
And
weaponized
those are the
that
5
stuff.
principles of the hand of goddess.
I'm very respectful of free will. Like,
Here's my empress.
I just had a little bit of an interruption. So,
I got to do
yeah,
that. I
what
got to
I
redo
got
this.
is
Yeah.
that
Redo the whole thing really.
I'm like the last time with the backdoor sort of stuff, right? Just going between us. It was actually Earth that was hacked, and her backdoor hacked of us.
We're going to
To
heaven.
align with her and pure source. I assume it was massive effort to isolate her.
Oh, yes, first.
You got to see all the satellite stuff going up, right?
Oh yeah.
And how it's like there's going to be
Put a link up to this guy filmed tonight sky with his infrared camera. Amazing. I mean, I see some stuff, but not only a couple of things, not like loads.
Toxicity in the world and stuff that I've talked about in the section, sovereignty declaration, those important sort of stuff, and the financial stuff going on, and the agendas to move people off land because they want access to it and stuff, right? These guys aren't playing.
Who are you anyway? Would you like to talk?
Hardcore. And like I
Like to
said,
talk?
the whole spiritual
Or this
community has a lot of time for contributing, setting up the massive failure.
You're a spiritual
And
trap.
yeah, so it was Earth that was gone after massively, and then we were hacked by Earth. They hacked her data to get to us, and that's how it felt like for me.
Who are you? What would you like to say?
But it was more so, it was more like she was desperate need for help. It wasn't so much I was getting hacked for her, but it was more than likely, but I'm pretty solid, right? You know, like most of us have been smashed and beaten up, and we've enjoyed it to get to now, right? And so, from my perspective, I held her, and I cleared it up, and I reconnected her to pure source again and stuff. And so, to me, it was like a massive opposition, right? But it was very simple. 2 hours here and there. I didn't even do the whole planet, right? I just did her soul, right? So I just really want to invite you to contemplate how you felt the last few weeks, right? And how you might have felt after midweek, okay? And how you feel now, right? Because ideally all this information I'm offering is to really engage the reanimation of your body, align with pure source, to be superior to all this stuff, right? So I'm just going to move on. It's a bit windy, so it's hard to hold the images up, but I'll have them next to me like I always do. If you went back to Influences Part 4, that I said this is the Part 2 of after a year, I have this one, right? And this is, I've evolved a lot to have the spiritual no man's land sort of stuff, right? But, and if you download my sovereignty declaration, I've got all the images in the back, right? So if you want to reference the images, they're in my sovereignty declaration. I put a lot of them there. Okay? So I did have this variable, right? Because the towers and all that, there's a lot going on. And for me, it's like working in partnership with the nanotech and all that sort of stuff. So the frequency suit, to me, is all about blocking out the human resonance, right? And the level of, say, Starlink, it's like 250 meg per second. It's like faster than cable connections sort of stuff, worldwide, and that. It's just crazy. Okay? So, yeah, I just wanted to put this in quick, right, as a reference. And obviously I've got the other images, so I might show you the awareness journey quick. So just think of this when you watch the videos and stuff, right? Because I'm more aiming for the 3D 5 sense and getting out of that, right? So I'll just show you the awareness journey with the divine light.
Oh, my right hand's itching, that's good news.
This is the awareness journey of the ups and downs, we're going through the drift of no man's land, divine light, although we're accessing us to get above 22D and derailing us and all that, the ETs and all that sort of stuff, the energy hygiene sort of issues and targeting us and stuff like that. So this is what it's been like. And just, if you did invest in Influences Part 4, just maybe how much you know now versus then. And if I've helped you, I've invested in my content. I really appreciate your trust in me and stuff. I really hope the investment in all of my stuff is really starting to pay off now. Right? So, very interesting. Okay. I'm just going to show you one more image. I think it was Intuitive Potential Part 7, a couple of videos ago, where I talked about the nanotech. Right? We worked that out in late December, right? And the specific nanotech sort of stuff I was talking about was out of phase, right? One of my allies was able to help me and recognize mechanics of it all and stuff. What they said to me, it was like I had like nano sort of rooms in my field that were out of phase, and anyone trying to work on me or come near me was actually getting attacked by them. So you imagine multi-feed, out of phase, nano weapon sort of stuff, okay, going at me and at them, right? From what I knew about people is that it was those sort of variables were going to anyone external, right? But what I knew with a lot of people, right, is they have been isolating themselves from any help, right? So if you out there were trying to seek help and all that, you were messed up in your mind. And anytime you sort of went to someone, say me, I could clear it out, right? But generally I can clear these things out, but it's always cool to have someone very aware that you know that's an interest to see what's going on, because then we learn it and then we work it out and then I put it into my sovereignty declaration and stuff. But what I felt with a lot of people is that the sympathetic resonance, this stuff was in them, that is isolating them, say, from me. So if I'm an avenue to help them get clear, and on top of that, the memory catches in them as well. So in these videos, Sabrina gets into that, and they talk about this stuff, and I'll do a little clip of me in it and talk about all this stuff. So I just wanted to offer this up front before we get into the videos, alright? So if you've been pretty consistent with my stuff, just remember that. But this is sort of a really new, profound understanding that we've worked out, that the nano stuff was in the mind and stuff. And this gets into the synthetic telepathy and stuff. And Sabrina's big on the fake channeling sort of stuff. It's all mechanicalized by this AI stuff, right? And this infrastructure. Okay, it's been around for a long time. And to me, a lot of these people in the community that get a lot of support are actually run by it, right? So if your motivation is fame, adoration, or financial benefit, and everyone's got this nano stuff in them without even knowing, because they've been totally set up to failure by all the alternate spiritual community in that, right? That all this stuff is so fast and it's been going on for decades, plans, okay? That we have to accept that there's possibly this stuff about, like for me, as I said, like the nutrition interviews I've had, I felt like I had the solution for a long time, so I've been explained on top of like being a badass spirit and stuff, but getting the body right has been the foundation of what I've done. It's been an instinctively idealist path, right? Not perfect, but it's good ingredients to get past the most stuff that people are dealing with. So these videos I'm going to get into, right? I'll just show you that one image again. just remember all this, right? So ideally what I'm offering them is influence part 7, invader network part 2, right? Is busting a lot of the stuff at a high level, right? So it's going from the multi-D, but then it's percolating through from the incarnation war into the beings in Leviathan skin suits, right? You know, the pillaging to get all our codes for 25,000 years to create the body tech that these invader souls can be in. Right? You just got to think like Black Rock, Blackstone, out front of one of Trump's towers is a black cube sort of thing. It's all Saturn, Metatron sort of stuff. And Metatron's been killed, but they're going for the Stargate, right? From my perspective. Okay. And the control at a massive level with AI and, you know, the ETs and all that sort of stuff, right? But we've made a lot of progress, right? And to me, it's so profound that we know this, right? And so I've created my sovereignty declaration. Maybe you've got your own solutions, or other people. I don't know any other people that even close to what I've done, let alone the energy hiding and all that sort of stuff, right? So the other image, just imagine what I'm able to do, clearing out energy hiding, doing my 1,000 orders, right? Do my 3-page sovereignty declaration every time I do it, self-healing and stuff. So I was able to help Earth out this week because there was another big test when we played. And so for me, that going at me so hard by Earth was that I was a threat, all right, from an information perspective. So that's where it's like inspired me to do this today, all right? So what I'm going to do is get into the video components. And I was going to start easy, but I think I'm going to go hard. This guy that I had a clip in the Bitcoin video, where he's talking all about this stuff recently, and to get beyond like the narrative stuff to the higher levels, to the multi-D, right? And I'll interject with some Sabrina clips. And ideally, what I'm going to do is link the sources of the videos as well. And there's this 27-minute clip from Whitney Weaver that's excellent. It's more grounded, 3D5%, but it gets into the technocratic levels and the tier system in the AI. And it depends how long this is. I might do a shorter clip just to offer it, but I might go over this stuff again because it might be too much for people as it is, and it will offer me a chance to be more detailed and all that sort of stuff. I think it's stuff that we like this video, ideally you'll watch many times and get a great deal out of it, right? So I'm going to get into the first main video, and there'll be sections with Sabrina, I think. Like, I'm not going to do it separately. I can interject things because the video I saw from Sabrina, she was referring to the first video that I'm offering, right? And then I'm ideally going to offer the Whitney Webb video, depending how long it is, right? So really enjoy it. This is a very powerful section of the video, right? As I said at the start, it's not aimed to scare you, it's meant to engage, getting you beyond the Babylon massacre, the suppression of our DNA, to really engage you to another level right now, when it's critical. Game on time, right? So enjoy.
Folks, I'm joined with Ryan Belly. I like to call him a artificial intelligence expert. Ryan, what's your credentials, man? I mean, you have some major credentials here so that you're able to discuss these things. What are they?
I've been teaching since the 2000 in technology. So I started at the university and college levels. I've been teaching technology since there was technology. And I worked with it in the military, not as an enlisted soldier, but when I went back in as a contractor, it was in basically an area that did research and development and deployed some pretty impressive technologies. So I was on a career track, and they were introducing me to these technologies and ideas that when you're compartmentalized in the normal forces, you don't really see. But when you get out into the production company level of the play, that's when you understand things at a higher level. And until then, you're very much boxed in the us versus them, and this country versus that country, left versus right. But you get to a certain level where you're shown that all these countries and power players work together, and it's those that print the money that control everything. So we're bickering about countries and parties, but at a higher level, it's who prints the money, who controls the flow of resources. They make the decisions.
Trying
so
to
that I was
find
very
the sole
uncomfortable with
contract
when I was,
revocation.
again, told that China and the United States are working on the same side, and knowing what they were
Read it now,
doing in
we can
China
have
and
it.
seeing the fruit of that kind of technology build up, what's going on in China now, it's very evident that they've rolled out a techno-tyranny and that people in China are oppressed. So that's the fruit of that misuse of technology to enslave people. And that, of course, is my worry about what's going on in the United States now, where we're dumping tons of money, or are supposed to be dumping tons of money, up to $500 billion into data centers that are going to be running AI. But that's basically yeah.
So here's the thing. I mean, I've always been aware of the, I guess you could say, the shadow arms race, shadow government arms race, right? And now it's kind of like, you know, Trump made that speech to Davos. It was like a shot across the
Dodgy the
bow.
whole thing. Elon Musk.
Now we're not playing ball.
Bad
He's taking out of the
news.
Paris Accord. He's taking us out of the
Very good.
Paris Accord. World Health Organization. He's made a lot of huge moves, right? But then this one is like, wait a minute. Like, you do all these huge moves to take us out of the World Health Organization, Paris Climate, the whole thing. You're even saying CBDC will not be centralized, banking, centralized currency. But yet you're putting us into this artificial intelligence infrastructure that now is what Oracle, SoftBank, DeepSeek. What is going on here? Because this just threw me off. It was like a curveball. I mean, he came out and did all these great things, but yeah, we're going into the direction of artificial intelligence anyway. And should people be worried?
We should definitely be. This is why we need to be very aware now and alert and understand the workings of psyops, which use our good intentions, our hope, and our emotions against us to blind us to what's really happening. So if you're asking what's really happening, the biggest game in town, the elephant in the room, is the control grid, the AI control grid that's being built around us that I was told about, again, in 2008. And when we talked with Juan, he said the technologies that I thought were like 2006 and on were actually in the 80s. So this is a pushing the clock very much back. So this has been well planned. The people they roll out, like Larry Ellis and Elon Musk and Sam Altman, these guys are mascots for what really is DARPA. So we can subclassify it, a broad umbrella, not report to you and me. It's not about nationalism. It's not about patriotism. It's about who pays them and who prints the money for them to have control over us. And that is the banksters. The same that we have in the United States works for the banksters. And they have an agenda to protect their wealth and secure their power forever. And that plan is to roll out technology to protect their interests and assets. They have coined themselves stakeholders, and of course, by virtue then we're the banquitas, but they're the stakeholders that own everything. Why do they own everything? Because they have control of the printing press. So of course,
Hello,
if you have
how are
control
we?
of the printing press, you can own everything.
Some
So they roll out these puppets like
I'm not gonna read.
Keel, and all these guys, but really they're a facade to take over to different branches, to give us the appearance that they're different companies, but they're all working in consort, and they're all dripping out a drip release of the technology that's been in existence for decades. And now they're rolling it out in order to control us. So how are they doing it? They're rolling it out, of course, with the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything, the Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Thoughts, the Internet of everything. And
AI controlling our life forever.
they are controlling, micro-controlling our life.
I've got to go back and watch him some more. He keeps bringing up more Internet of Thoughts. Oh, BCI, Internet of Things, Internet of Thoughts. The Internet of Thoughts is a concept describing the ability to connect the human brain to the Internet in real time, using nanotechnology and AI to allow people to access information from the internet by thinking. Yeah, organoid intelligence. In the MBPI sensor terminals, they think a thought, and the drone responds to their thought. See other videos. It's called Being a Superhero in Any Smart City on the Rumble. Synergy. How it works. Brain-computer interface. Neural nanobots in the brain would receive and process brain data, converting it into information that can be shared in the cloud computing. The information would be stored in all those multiple cloud networks. Information transmission. The brain would transmit information requests to the nanobots, which would then send information back to the brain. Let's see, verdict.co.uk. Nanobots in the brain would make it possible to access the internet simply by thinking. Head in the cloud, scientists predict the Internet of Thoughts. These are both from 2019. This is neuroscience news. I can open these two, I'm curious. So we are at neurosciencenews.com. Heads in the cloud. Scientists predict Internet of Thoughts within decades, 2019. And imagine a future technology that would provide instant access to the world's knowledge and AI simply by thinking about a specific topic or question. Because none of us have gotten advertising on our phones or our computer just by thinking of something. Oh, no. Nope. So the human brain cloud interface B/CI, and let's see, connect the neocortex of the human brain to a synthetic neocortex, and the goes across the blood-brain barrier. These devices would navigate the human vasculature, cross the blood-brain barrier, and precisely auto-position themselves among or even within brain cells. Kind of like the MIT wearable wrapping around your neurons. They would then wirelessly transmit encoded information to and from a cloud-based supercomputer network for real-time brain state monitoring and data extraction. Yeah. The Internet of Thoughts here, the Matrix style downloading is in that IIT set Super Soldier stuff too. And so, nanobots in the brain, again, 2019, make it possible to access the internet simply by thinking. No Neuralink chip required. 20 years ago, the thought of household objects being connected to the internet may have seemed like a far-off possibility. However, with an estimated 26.66 billion devices now connected to the internet of Things is now an everyday reality. Some experts predict that the next generation of computing may arrive within the next 100 years. Okay. They believe it may soon be possible to access the internet via thoughts alone through a concept called the Internet of Thoughts, an international collaboration led by Berkeley, oh boy, and the U.S. Institute for Molecular Manufacturing predicts that the progress in nanotechnology, nanomedicine, and AI will lead to the development of the human brain cloud interface. And when we see South by Southwest talking about organoid intelligence and that everybody be doing it with their IBM square pin, what was that, December last year? Or October, whichever. Why are, everybody always, when they write these articles in different places, they're always like, oh yeah, 100 years, 50 years. Meanwhile, DARPA's got DARPA TV, and we can watch about it. It's pretty insane, but it's how these things go. These nanoparticles have been used already in ways to couple external magnetic fields to neuronal electric fields, that is to detect and locally amplify these
Scary stuff. So let's read this. So contract revocation. Actually, it's the Andre Hodge Infinite Potential Sovereignty Declaration V4.2 complete version, January 25th, 2025. So it's just pretty much hot off the press. It says this. I won't read that. I will. we go. I, at this infinite moment of all possibilities on offer before me, as this being live, relentless on Earth Mother, and my amazing human DNA body tech, striving now to truly be all I have in my potential to be, I seek to make the most of this precious peak awareness era of my short human existence. Have begun to realize there is so much more going on beyond what most are able or willing to accept. I have so many questions that remain unanswered. Society doesn't seem to even comprehend the truth. Is on this path, I realize so much has not been adding up. So much is just not fair. Not all experiences have been good for me, those I care about, or all my human species. The more I push, the more it becomes obvious. Bad escalates, never enjoying the consequences I do. The level of callousness, selfishness, service to self is totally outrageous, yet encouraged and rewarded. I am at the point I see how I, and all similar to me, have been totally set up as a massive life failure. I don't know I'm doing the right thing. Wow. It's 57 pages long. I don't think I'm going to get through that right now. Which is a shame, because I would have liked to have done. I have read a smaller one, actually. Come to think of it. Right, I don't know this one. Right, we can do this. Excuse me. So start again. Right. I had this. Sorry. Throat chakra trying to kick in there. Something don't want me saying this. The Andre Hodge, who I'm going to take my hand off again. Andre Hodge. Infinite Potential Sovereignty Declaration V4.1. Short audit. I, at this infinite moment of all possibilities on offer before me, seek to make the most of this precious peak awareness era of my short human existence. I will no longer hold back, accommodate, settle for what the majority of humanity presently accepts. So I open 1000D pure source spiritual assembly for multiverse resolution to clear the path for aligning, accessing, anchoring, holding, and maintaining my pure source infinite potential state of existence once and for all. For anything that may have an intent to impact on me, now so it's absolutely clear, I am defining the rules, protocols, boundaries, constraints of what accepts what front for the ultimate secure foundation to access my totality of sense of right, just out of reach. As I define my sovereignty aligned with pure source's authority to access my infinite potential, I call upon and engage my entire spiritual team. I invite you to stand with me as I declare my infinite potential sovereignty. I invite Earth Mother's true soul, connected and anchoring pure source's potential now to join. I invite and engage with you, the mighty 10,000 plus central suns, my authentic guides, ancestors, and vast ancestral armies, all the guardians, founders, and universal upgraded beings, the 1,000 dragons who are masters of recovering all stolen DNA codes and body tech, all other species, including the space whales, oh my god, elements, and my or all other dragons also, any awful forces, organizations, species, collectives aligned to restoring pure sources of authority, or anyone or thing in the entire multiverse and being operating in alignment with this, who are all in partnership with me, anchoring my and thus Earth Mother's potential also, as well as our entire universe's pure source potential restored, from the incredibly complex scenario we are dealing with now, due to events originating back as far as 1 trillion years ago or more, when my entire vast potent and now greatly expanding spiritual team relying with me, I thank and honor you all for your incredible, no doubt unappreciated support to even be here. Your patience and assistance in any way that has contributed to this epic, potent moment in me having this level of awareness, comprehension, and a state ready to really push forward. I greatly appreciate and acknowledge you for your incredible and unappreciated support. I delegate any authority to you and your vast awareness you may have needed, that you may not have had permission up until now, but needed this confirmation from me to engage. I empower you to step in where you see need or feel any gaps in my defense I may not be aware of, to do whatever you see is needed for my sovereignty to be absolute. Providing it respects my rules of engagement framework I define in this declaration, so my 1,000D defense, unseen gap vulnerabilities, misguided interference, and pathway clearance is absolutely impenetrable now. Anything, one, violator, violating me, or any one of my infinite degrees of separation, each violator violating that violator, violating that violator, all the way back to all sources. Any individual, species, entity, collective, matrix, lattice, hierarchy, network, organization, unity, technology, apparatus, political organization, alliance, or anything from any multiverse affecting me, employing violation being my asset and an injustice anywhere, technology I liked, and unquenchable 1000D pure source views to track all infinite degrees of violators identified. All violators violating me, and anyone, anywhere, affecting anything in any way, are now all busted. The pure source fuse lit is coming for you to blow up no matter where you are. This is nowhere to escape your consequences now. 1,000D dragons, go your hardest. Don't hold back and collect anything or one still remaining. Dump no one into my 1,000D pure source spiritual assembly for multiverse resolution. Open 10,000 central suns. Absolutely destroy anything making it to you and leave nothing left. I fire up the 1,000D print server farms to print the invoices for all violations identified in this audit. Create an audit data file of all violations by violators and upload it to the 1,000D print server farms. Print and send out 1 trillion times the life force cost invoice for every violation identified now. Avoid all DNA codes, talents, life force, Kundalini, flash, recovery, abundance, and discovery tech stolen. Employed by anything or anyone identified here if they are not aligned with pure source authority. They have absolutely no permission to use any of this. I return all stolen technology and resources to the victim of violation at the moment of its violation. Any act violating me offers an injustice anywhere is an injustice anywhere card I play in full now. All violators go into this 1,000D pure source spiritual assembly for multiverse resolution opened. You're all busted, audited, void of any talent or codes gained. You're to be outed to anyone or thing or victim of your work and build 1 trillion times the life force for each violation identified. That will be the consequence going forth for any invader doing such acts outside pure source law. Our future will be free of your influences, hindrance, and presence, recovering our superiority. Pure source souls having a human experience on our magnificent Earth Mother. will be free to ignite all they have the potential to be forevermore. I open all avenues for allies, resources, support and abundance for me. Now my path is clear to assess my ability to operate at my infinite potential level going forth. Everything stolen, hacked, hidden is to be returned pure and in full for my potential to be in order to contribute to my pre-incarnation. Intend before this birthing, those who are also authentic, pure source aligned, here meant to support me, who have also been influenced and impacted but have it in them to also engage their infinite. The source of that interference is all placed into this. 1,000D pure source spiritual assembly for multiverse resolution I've opened. For your discernment of your validity to exist or operate here anymore, I open my path up to allies who are a match for this, so they can seek to and find me for their infinite potential to also be realized. And if those allies, spiritual teams, deem it non-free will violation, to expand the declaration of pure source sovereignty to them, so those who are here to assist me on this path, but have been stalled due to their own violations, I open and expand my 1,000D pure source spiritual assembly for multiverse resolution, to assist in their honouring of their role with me. Unless they have the sole intent to resolve this on their 3D level themselves, let the incredible synchronicities roar and potentials beyond anything I have allowed myself to even consider I am worthy of unfold. I thank my entire spirit team, long-term allies, and you, the mighty recent additions, as well as any other ally on any level I have failed to recognise in this reading, who has helped me along this journey of mine, that has assisted in my ability to hold space and push through everything I have enjoyed so far, helping me achieve this privilege of clarity I have gained when context matters the most. To appreciate now the profound truth I know will be an epic ally navigating all uncertainty going forth. To realise this potential for me and us all now. I thank Earth Mother for allowing my partnership with you in this moment, your trust and delegation of responsibility to me during the darkest hour. The enormous honour of your trust in me I will cherish for eternity. During this privileged time of having a human experience in my amazing DNA body technology, as an ally fully aligned with you and your potential also now and forevermore, I look forward to the opportunity to work with your true soul in the restoration of pure science as authority in our universe, and never ever allow an invasion we have endured to ever have a chance again, as I self-accept my potential now in this reading and forevermore, declare my pure source sovereignty, completing the recovery of that long forgotten, never experienced dream. So it is to be the beacon and potential for all art in our universe, and the answer to the great mystery, and so it is. By myself, Philip, from my own. Thank you, Andre. Interesting. Very interesting. Let's get back to this.
Meanwhile, DARPA's got DARPA TV and we can watch about it.
Oh, hello people, how are we?
But
I've just done a soul contract revocation.
these nanoparticles have been
Just
used
missed it, I'll do it
already
again.
to couple external magnetic fields to
Worth doing, it's
neuronal
infinite
fields,
potential.
that is to detect
Seven
and
of truth
locally
or
amplify these
go
magnetic
through
signals
down to
and so allow them to
the
alter
infinite
the
potential soul
electrical
contract
activity
revocation.
of neurons. This could work in reverse too. Electrical signals
Just send some
produced
I
by
made this ages
neurons
ago, but I'm trying to make it a little bit more
amplified via magnetoelectric
tight up a bit.
nanoparticles to allow
Who have we got
detection
here? Can we
outside
talk or are we
the
just going to
skull.
hide in the shadows?
In the future, this technology might also allow us to create a global superbrain that would connect networks of individual human brains and AIs to enable collective thought. An early version of this tech called BrainNet has already been tested. It's not particularly sophisticated. An experimental human BrainNet system has already been tested, enabling thought-driven information exchange via the cloud between individual brains. It used electrical signals recorded through the skull of senders.
Who have we got anyway? Who's here?
Stimulation through the skull of
We're talking about
receivers,
permanent, isn't it?
allowing for
I think I've already got it in my head, though.
cooperative tasks. So, improved empathy. Shared cognition could help people understand each other better. Oh, that's amazing.
Hive mind.
And now they're rolling it out in order to control us. So how are they doing it? They're rolling it out, of course, with the Internet of Things, the Internet of Everything, the Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Thoughts, the Internet of everything. And
AI controlling our life forever.
AI controlling, micro-controlling our life. And
It's the beast system, basically.
It's totally the beast system. That's the X. X is the mark of the beast. Marks the spot. And so, yeah, it's the
Ooh,
beast
I better
system.
get off Twitter
And
actually.
basically,
Twitter's pretty bad news.
it will tokenize everything in reality. It will change our God-given rights-based society to a rules-based order. And whose rules? Their rules. Enforced by who? By AI and robots that they're rolling out. And I've been warning about the AI robot rollouts in 2025 since 2009. So this was a long-planned event where they're rolling the robots out now. They've conditioned people enough to accept it. They've positioned economies and different industries to be able to accept it. Now they're kicking people out who are like harvesting the food in California. Well, who's going to harvest your food? The problem wasn't the people who were there working on your farms. The people who are the cartel, human traffickers and drug runners and covert terrorist people, they are the problem. But the average, immigrant or migrant or whatever you want to call them, that's here to participate in America, they're not the enemy. And now we turned on them. Although I agree, solidify our border, kick people who shouldn't be there out. But now you're literally sabotaging your own food supply by kicking out the people who actually do the work. Well, the way the system works is they create the problem and they propose the solution.
Right.
So by the time everybody figures it out, it's what's going to be the solution, robots. So it's ironic that it's in California, and this is the year they roll out robots. So I guess we're going to have apple picking robots rolling out pretty soon.
Apple picking robots.
Yeah. So would you say maybe oh gosh, it's going to be really hard for me to say something like this. My audience is going to eat me alive, but Trump kind of just stole the agenda from the globalists. I mean, and made it his. So he has control over it. I mean, what is going on here?
That's been a long time.
Why is it being rolled out?
People said
I mean, this is
starts
still
with
the
Trump.
same thing, just a different
He's an
method of
actor.
travel.
They're all dodgy.
Same
There ain't no
destination.
fucking Messiah.
Exactly.
It's only
right.
you.
So
You're the only one can save you. Get ready.
People when they realized what he was saying.
Get ready for the
And now they
launch.
do turn smart cities, freedom cities, and they're gonna roll it out in the world.
Hold on. What are freedom cities? I know what smart cities are, but what are freedom cities?
So Trump proposed the creation of several, like many, it might even be 13, ironically, freedom cities. Where
Elon
he
Musk,
wants
Dodge.
to build these cities as
His granddad
it's
tried to
not
start a military coup
technology
in
services
Canada.
humanity. It's humanity
Communists.
services
They're
technology.
all communists.
And that involves putting apps
Technocracy.
everywhere. And they're not secret about it, including Larry Ellis, who talks about putting an AI camera, like a police body cam, on every citizen. So you have an AI snitch.
AI camera on everyone. We've already got them, haven't we?
In order to access any services or exist in these cities. So they literally said it. And you can't put the cat back in the bag. Larry Ellis said that he wants us surveilled constantly. He wants to live in a constant surveillance civilization.
1984. It wasn't a fucking story. It was a fucking script, a warning.
Correct. These as well.
And those as well. So this
Those
is
are
called predictive programming.
They want us to have every 3 to 6 months, correct?
correct. So let us touch that.
All the
because it's
music,
something that they've weaponized
football,
against us.
sports,
It's our
everything.
ignorance
The
of
whole
biology.
culture has been
I
designed
would
for this
say
moment in
disease
time to
is
happen.
not a disease. What it is
Especially the
bodily
music.
response to something that shouldn't be there. Whether the thing that shouldn't be there is parasites or fungus or heavy metals or SV4 or whatever it is, it's the body encapsulating something that shouldn't be there. Now, the average person has the big C 6-7 times according to allopathic medicine in a lifetime, and it processes it without knowing it. It becomes a problem when the body can't process and get rid of something that shouldn't be there in the first place. So it's like saying scabs. If you get a cut, what happens? The blood coagulates and you get a scab. well, that's what's happening inside of the body, and we said that that's a disease. No, what caused that? What is it encapsulating? What's in the T, the big C? What's in there? Well, it's encapsulating something to protect the rest of your body. So they've made that seem like that is the problem, as if a scab is the problem and not what cut you. And now they're proposing a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And that solution involves getting under your skin with AI programmed nanotech and gene editing that these AI, and this is how they're selling it. They couldn't say, hey, we're going to roll out some AI techno-control grid. They're saying, oh, we're going to,
so you can't fight at all.
Because we
Lovely.
love you so much that we're rolling out this 10 big AI medical facilities.
Unbelievable.
A custom, you know what, for each person that is a custom, you know, your DNA is going to be the guiding.
Right, so, well, hold on, I don't want to go too much into that club too, but this is like, whether we like it or not, this is the direction we're going.
Because we've chosen to be ignorant and not confront people who are purveying and spreading lies, then yes, this is kind of an inevitability. And you ask, like, who's fighting whom there? Then I think people need to understand that before any of these guys have
There's a girl going to come on there in a minute, on the next video, I think.
Billionaire class.
No, I don't know
Billionaires protect
where she learned what she was learned, but she's on the ball. But
so
nothing I can't tell you, she'll tell you. I can tell people for a long time. I learned most of the stuff. Or good, a good introduction to it all was Alan Watt. Alan Watt, cutting through the matrix.com, not Alan Watt, the bloody Buddhist bollocks. Alan Watt. Cutting through the matrix.com, the best of the best, but he got fried. Right, energy weapons.
And they don't want them to have any recourse once this is
in the woods in bloody Canada.
Any way for us to take it back. So it's like
right in the middle of nowhere.
Fried. There's no going back.
What's Constellation? I just got a media team is reaching out to me for Constellation. Is that the AI?
Well, no. Meta constellations are the mechanism to spread the signal from space onto Earth. It's a term that's used to describe groups of satellites working under one global mesh network. Now, there's many different companies that are rolling them out in the tens of thousands of satellites. So that means if you're in the deepest, darkest crevice of a rainforest in Brazil, it doesn't matter. You're going to get hit from space. It doesn't matter if you take out the cell towers. It doesn't matter if you get rid of all the tech on the ground. As long as those satellites exist, then the robots will have what the AI mind cloud, and their command and control will be from space. So their command and control is from space. Their data centers are on the Earth with their own hardened power supplies, and we're the prey.
So the way I see this is basically converted into this. It's almost like.
Although I would even still, I'd say Trump would be better than the fucking Democrats. But then saying the same people, doing the same show.
Trump's bringing it in, so it's good.
But if I had to pick a fucking evil,
to analyze whether something is a psyop or not,
and
you see your emotions, your goodwill, and your gullibility are
megalomaniac and a fucking nonce. But it probably was the same anyway.
Or to rationalize things that people say.
So get there without doing stuff.
Bring reality back to reality. There are objective facts. This is happening, and he says things that are very at times totalitarian. He also says some wonderful things that most people can agree with, but that's our weakness. We've been sucked into a psyop where the guy that's rolling it out is the person we were expecting to protect our freedoms, our borders, and our rights. And actually, this system is supranational and will be a globally deployed network, not just unique to the United States, and it's going to be global. So ultimately, we're going to end up in global government, just in a different, with a different lipstick on it.
We're all communists.
All right, folks, leave your comments down
with
below. Let me know what
Prince
your
William
thoughts
being
are.
the
Ryan, can we go to the back channel, Nino's Corner, TV, shut the interview there? I want to get into the details of this, and I have some serious questions to ask you, but I think we got the meat and bones out of it right here. So you're telling me this is a warning, it's coming.
It's coming, and like I said, the military component is already there. It's JC2, Joint All-Domain Command and Control, where they're getting rid of all silos in different weapon systems and putting them under one console. That is better known as Skynet. So putting all these
this is like Terminator.
It's like it's worse.
Well, it's had
Because
explained
in
that earlier.
Terminator, the robots missed sometimes. In our reality, robots don't miss.
Explain that. And it's gonna be like instant, and they're gonna be able to shut off everything you do. Are we still looking at a social credit score? Are we still looking at all that?
So I was exposed to it as a fractal algorithm that harvests all of your digital information and gives you a threat rating. That threat rating was relabeled a social credit score and flipped upside down. So instead of a high threat rating, having a social credit score means you're a good slave, and having a low social credit score means you're a high threat. So they just relabeled it, flipped it upside down, and now and let me tell you something, everything you do digitally, everything you think, everything you research, allows them to predict your future behaviors and unfoldment. So they totally have that capacity. So yes,
And they can arrest you for that under something.
and they can arrest you for that. You see today that Trump just rolled out anti-Semitism laws and saying that any anti-Semites that are not from the United States will be deported, and he's activating both criminal and civil authorities to move on that within the next 60 days. Those folks are thought crimes. So people are free to agree with or disagree with anybody they want and should not be imprisoned or attacked by the government for having opinions about geopolitics or particular groups involved in it.
Someone doesn't have to
This on the
mean
back channel, I
Jewish,
appreciate
can be
you.
Muslim as well, by the way.
Thank you, Neil.
So ain't quite what you think about might even be. Probably can't say fuck all, bang on. Get away. Get yourself. Find some woods.
Hey, welcome. Well done for making it to this
Gonna
point.
start
It's been
now.
Probably quite a long video and stuff, and I might be making it a bit longer. So if I'm interjecting with this part, what I'm going to do is, ideally I'll come out some of the components relative to the first two main clips that I was going to use, just before the third part, which is related to this
Empress.
pretty epic thing called Whitney Webb, right?
What
You
you
probably
wear?
like her a lot.
What you
I
wear?
was listening to her and I've known about it
Which
for a
one you
while.
got?
It's like she employs the same mechanics as I do, but I haven't had to work at the level she's at for a while. But I also go into multi-feed, all right, where she's very grounded, okay? So I don't know if I'm going to offer the whole 27-minute clip. I might offer the full clip at another point, but I might just part of it here, yeah. But I'm feeling like offering the whole clip. Those of you that are hardcore, it's more of a grounded view of all the stuff going on, but it's very complementary to all the other aspects, right? So she gets more into the political and the players and the two-tier of AI system and stuff like that.
Alan Watt. She's watched Alan Watt. I guarantee it. She's learned a lot from Alan Watt.
Okay. And that's
He's the best teacher ever. He was the best and he still is.
Right? So we have to
she must be a student of Alan Watt. She needs to see she's what I know from Alan Watt. Or from at least from knowing about Alan Watt.
But there's ingredients that are there, the invaded. Okay? Like I showed with the pure source overlay with the triangle sort of thing many times.
Heart with a bit of a snaky skin going on now. What's going on there? Maybe a forked tongue, maybe. But Captain Chaos, I love Captain Chaos. Now, I need to make my little piggy wiggy one that might fly, so maybe I'll just give him some wings.
You may see this differently. Do you think that Trump is somebody who has the elite view of like, hey, the white people are in power, let's make
they all want
everybody else? Or
they consider themselves a different species, so no matter what it is, it ain't the fucking colour or anything. The fucking under mechanism.
Yeah, so as far as my perspective on Trump goes, it tends to do with the view, it tends to revolve around the view that he is a businessman at heart and that the focus of his political style, I guess, is deal making. And, you know, I wrote a lot in my book about Trump's mentor, Roy Cohn, who was, among other things, the general counsel to McCarthy. During the McCarthy hearings, he was also, a New York City lawyer.
She must have listened to Alan Watt.
unsavory figures, including
Or,
some
or if not, whoever she
organized
listened
crime,
to
and also
learned
had
from,
the ear of
mostly
Ronald
listened
Reagan
to
and
Alan
top
Moore.
politicians in the United States and sort of bridged a variety of worlds. And he very much essentially taught Trump the art of the deal, as it were. And, a lot of his close associates, like the Pope family, for example, were very politically connected, also connected to organized crime, arguably. But we're very much in the business of
When you website you, I'd love to know what my IQ is. I've always
and
been told
that's
I'm
how,
super
power,
fucking clever, but
political power in the
I am
United
pretty
States
stupid as well.
functions.
it goes hand in
And
hand, I think.
so, fundamentally, I think a lot of what Trump likes
She's minted
to
though.
focus on
No,
and
no,
promote
what's
about his
going on?
political style is
Yeah,
around
yeah.
negotiations, whether those are diplomatic negotiations or negotiations with businessmen that lead to big number investments he can tout to the public, which is, I think, part of the impetus behind his having the Project Stargate press
Oh,
conference.
a right-wing conspiracy
House on his
theorist.
first day,
That's hilarious.
at his second term.
Well, we
And I think that's also kind of consistent with what we saw from Trump during his first term as well. So when you're sort of focused on those metrics, I don't necessarily think that the focus is necessarily on how do I help everyday Joe. I'm sure that, in his mind, well, I don't really necessarily want to speak for him, but if you're, of the opinion that I'm going to tout this big multi-million-dollar investment in U.S. AI infrastructure, for example, perhaps he views that as helpful for the American economy and thus helpful for the American people. And I think it is very likely that over the next 4 years, there certainly will be some Americans that economically benefit, from Trump's economic policy, but I don't necessarily think that's going to be everybody. And I think, generally, based on what we've seen so far, there's been a lot of courting of big tech executives and a lot of talk about making the U.S. the AI and crypto capital of the world. And how much of that is necessarily going to translate or trickle down, sort of refer to,
she's got to listen to Alan Moore.
Economic terms, to the everyday American public. It's really hard to know. But again, I just want to go back to someone like Eric Schmidt, for example, who, as I noted earlier, had sort of an outsized role in developing the AI policy of the military and intelligence community. He wrote a book called The Age of AI with Henry Kissinger, and also, I believe, a professor from MIT, who, I'm sorry, his name escapes me at the moment, but basically that book posited that essentially AI is going to make a two-tiered society. There's going to be the top tier of people who develop and maintain AI and set and determine what its objective functions are, and then sort of a second class who, which we would assume is larger than the first class, so they don't explicitly say that, but who AI acts upon, and eventually that group will lose the ability to understand and really be able to conceive of how AI is impacting their lives, and will develop some sort of dependency on AI for things like decision making, sort of leading to this phenomena that they refer to in the book as cognitive diminishment, which I sort of see as this idea of, we've all heard it before, if you don't use it, you lose it. So the idea of like mental math, you start using a calculator or a phone calculator or something like that, it becomes more difficult over time, and eventually very difficult to be able to do mental math in your head, when perhaps when you were in grade school, it was much easier to do that because you were sort of, you had to use that ability regularly. And so they essentially argue that by not making those decisions and outsourcing to AI, this particular class will lose the ability to make those decisions over time. And when you also factor in that there's a lot of efforts to sort of outsource creativity, art and music to artificial intelligence, will that have an impact on people's ability to create, and what sort of impact will this have on society? And these are things that I think sort of get left out of the public discussion, and I don't think they're really on someone like Trump's radar as a businessman. He's focused on sort of the bottom line, the number, the success of the negotiation, and how successful it looks, frankly, whether it's to his base or to businessmen he wants to court, or, other people, foreign leaders, and, I'll stop there, I guess.
No, that was great. So how do you feel when you hear about AI creating this two-tier system?
Oh, I certainly don't think that's positive. I think it's sort of the technocratic model that we discussed earlier, where you sort of have an elite class that sort of set, the system that will micromanage the masses at the end of the day. I mean, they don't explicitly say that in the book, but if you're familiar with someone like Henry Kissinger, for example, and some of his more controversial views on the masses and the public, and some of his more infamous quotes, is that a system that he wants to happen? I don't really know. He's dead, and so no one can ask him. But I think it is kind of disturbing in a sense that
What
someone
are some
that's
of his
known.
more infamous quotes? I'm not super familiar with history. I know who he is, but I couldn't quote him.
He created a national security memorandum, for example, that viewed people that live in the third world birth rates and in the global south as national security threats to the United States, and wanted to implement policies to reduce their population size, for example, and sort of had what I would argue as a eugenicist bent to some of his policies. And he was one of the mentors, of course, to people that have become famous in recent years, like the World Economic Forum Chairman Klaus Schwab. And
have to be. We have to keep it within the
some of
family.
his more infamous quotes that he's known for refer to soldiers being pawns of foreign policy, essentially sort of like people's lives are just pawns on a chessboard for the sort of the elite figures to move around for their benefit. That's sort of the mentality as I see it of someone like him. But obviously he's been praised as a model statesman and all of this stuff, and his mentored Trump in his first administration, mentored Hillary Clinton, people on both sides of the aisle. But I personally, I think the more you look into someone like that and his connections with sort of devious oligarchs like David Rockefeller going, significantly back in time, he's sort of someone that promotes this idea of a global technocracy.
Okay, so do you have the impulse to want to see AI slow down or stop?
Well, I don't necessarily want to say that I'm like a Luddite and we should all go back to the Stone Age or things like this, but I think
She don't talk anywhere near enough.
actual public discussion on this,
fucking day.
particularly on the fact that our out-of-control national security state and Silicon Valley have essentially been fusing over the past few decades, and what necessarily that means. Because a lot of people will say stuff, well, it's AI in the private sector, but when that private sector company has multi-million-dollar conflicts of interest with the national security state, I think that should, be part of the discussion.
It's a really interesting intersection that I clearly need to start thinking more about. The way that I would look at that, and this ties into something you mentioned earlier, during the inauguration of Donald Trump, you had all these tech billionaires there by him, and it certainly gave me like, ooh, this is why people are paranoid about oligarchy vibes. And I'm not super prone to that kind of thinking. So the fact that it hit me like that, I was like, okay, definitely it's good that people are being paranoid. But the intersection feels like it's a very natural intersection to me. So the reason that national security would be fusing with technology is that technology is going to be the front where these battles are fought. And so anybody that's seen, however many thousands of drones that China can launch and get to, dance like a dragon, it's very compelling. When you see it, it looks so cool. And then you imagine, well, what happens when 10,000 drones like that are able to go over aircraft carrier, and each one drops a reasonable sized payload that by itself would do next to nothing, but you drop 10,000 of those little somethings on that ship and you turn it into Swiss cheese, you realize, ooh, the way that we've been doing national defense is not going to work in a modern combat scenario. And so it is going to be these tech guys that we're going to need.
I think these are kind of problematic scenarios that need to be considered. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer or poo-poo on innovation, but I think, civil liberties do matter. And I think people need to be very mindful of that, especially considering, again, the Silicon Valley fusion with the national security state and the national security state's tendency to opportunistically whittle down American civil liberties for their benefit. So, first of all, as I referred to earlier with the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence, and some of these FOIA documents that came out of there is the promotion of the idea that essentially the US needs to do what China has done and replicate this civil military fusion model in order to win the AI arms race. And sort of the argument inherent in that is that in order to beat China, we must become China even more than China is. And you know, a lot of the justifications, you know, around China as an adversary are related to how China is not as protective of civil liberties as the United States at least postures itself as being, for example, and a major difference in the value system between China and the United States. And so if you're willing to adopt exactly that model, civil military fusion, in my opinion, is really not that different than fascism at the end of the day. It's the corporatist model, and I don't think it's necessarily what Americans want. And yeah, there is a trade-off, and I think people should consider it. But again, I'm not in the business of telling people what to think. But what happens if we go so far out of a desperation to win an AI arms race with China, for example, that we completely surrender the value system that supposedly makes us a freer, better society in the process? I think that is complicated. And I would also point to the fact that, you know, transnational capital, a lot of that has enabled China's AI arms race. There's a lot of cross-pollination in these, you know, Chinese government adjacent tech corporations and the United States. You can look at people like Larry Fink, for example, who definitely have a lot of ties to Chinese industry, for example, and people like Steve Schwarzman, quite similarly, very much tied there, who's, you know, head of Blackstone. And they're both very close personal friends of Donald Trump. And also, of course, Fink has ties to the Democrats as well. And a lot of, you know, Henry Kissinger, who I mentioned earlier, a lot of top CCP officials have pictures of them with Henry Kissinger in their offices. They love the guy. And there was that effort, of course, to open up China to commerce and partnerships with Western companies, for example, you know, back several decades ago. And a lot of that involved, you know, U.S. capital and some firms like Bechtel, for example, that were very much tied to the national security state of Ronald Reagan, for example. A lot of top people that served in top national security positions under him were involved in Bechtel, which was building a lot of the infrastructure that helped enable China to become this, you know, the power that it is. And why is that not being talked about? And I mean, this really isn't exclusive to Democrats either, though they often get rightly pointed out for having some conflicts of interest of this nature. But someone like Howard Lutnick, for example, who was head of the transition team for Trump and is his incoming Secretary of Commerce, has the same, his company he runs has the same tie, arguably a more direct tie, to a Chinese government majority-owned financial entity that was a big scandal for conservatives when Hunter Biden's Rosemont Seneca was also tied to it. But there's been no conservative uproar over this tie. And you have to kind of ask why that may be, and why you have a lot of these big tech people, Elon Musk included, who has a major role in the national security state of the United States, as one of the top contractors to Space Force in the Pentagon, for example, and Starlink, and all of these things. Have, you know, through Tesla, has a lot of ties to, you know, Chinese commerce and tech giants that also have rather cozy relationships with the Chinese government as well. Why is that not being discussed as, you know, a potential national security risk if we do really need to become China to beat China? You see what I'm saying? Like, if it was really, that was really the key driver of our issue, shouldn't we be scrutinizing the ties of these oligarchs to both China and, you know, some in our own national security state?
Interesting. Okay, so yet again, Whitney Webb, you lay new things at my feet that I have not yet looked at. I love this. Okay, so what, yeah, oh, you do it well. What is your hypothesis on what's going on? Very generous interpretation would be, well, this is globalism. This is people trying to make sure that there are good relations with these incredibly important international players, and we for decades tried to make China an ally, open it up so that we could invest there, that they could invest here, and it's only crazy people like me, Tom Bilyeu, who are like, yo, we're in a Cold War with China and this is about to get really weird. What do you think, if that's the naive or overly optimistic view, what do you think is really going on? Is it just personal enrichment? They don't care, hey, if I'm the Clintons and I have to give China our secrets, but it helps me stay in power, I'm gonna do it.
Well, so I would argue that one of the reasons, or what we can look to as sort of one of the markers of this whole trend beginning of this sort of bleeding of national security state issues between countries when it really doesn't make any sense. An example I like to bring up is a man named Samuel Pisar. You may know him as the stepfather of Anthony Blinken. He was also a prominent lawyer for big tech companies and a lot of other corporations. Also a very good friend and close relation to Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's father. And he was very active in what he said was sort of smoothing over relationships between East and West during the Cold War. But essentially what he said in testimony to Congress in the early 70s is that there was the rise of what he called the trans-ideological corporation, where you essentially have the multinational corporations, many of them based in the West, making joint ventures with the communist-owned, state-owned enterprises in the East, Russia and China, and that these were essentially fusing to form an economic structure that was unaccountable to any government in the world. And when asked if he thought this development was a good thing, he essentially said, yes, it was. And that was back in the 1970s, and nothing was really done about it. And you have to kind of ask why is that? And it's kind of interesting too for those that subscribe to the thesis of someone like Carol Quigley, who wrote many decades ago about this idea of the roundtable groups and all of that, sort of coming from Cecil Rhodes and Britain, and efforts to sort of remake the British Empire at a global scale through covert means. They essentially, that thesis essentially argues about creating an unaccountable economic entity as the means to doing that. A blob, if you will, if that's probably the easiest way to understand it. And essentially, I think what we have arrived at as a consequence of that type of, behavior and situation is a situation where we essentially have the nation states acting as enabling environments for policies that are often drafted at the international level by think tanks, and I'm sure the most notorious of those are things like the World Economic Forum, but there's the Council on Foreign Relations, there's Chatham House, there's CSIS. I mean, there's a lot of these institutions around. And oftentimes Congress people aren't really directly writing the policies they're voting on, they're handed laws, and sometimes those are developed from these